this is part 3 to the Ezekiel 38-39 Great War, Northern War with Israel. I had to make 3 because it was just getting too long, and I like to keep these around 10 minutes, give or take. Okay, so where we left off last time is we discussed how the entire ground force was obliterated by earthquakes, brimstone, hail, fire, pestilence, bloodshed, soldier turning on other soldiers, infighting, friendly fire, and how I believe that Israel is going to use some type of low-grade nuclear weapons. They're going to use a high-grade one, I think, on Damascus, but on this convoy, they want to use a low-grade one so that the people of Israel can re-inhabit the land later. And here's where we're going to get into that. So what it says is that they're going to set aside a valley, and they call it the Valley of the Travelers, east of the Dead Sea. Okay? And they're going to make that a burying place for the enemy troops. Okay? So they're setting aside an entire valley down by the Dead Sea, away from all the inhabited places of Israel, and to bury all these dead. Instead of doing it where they lay, they're going to take them all down here to this valley. Okay? And they're going to call it the Valley of Hamon-Gog, or Hamon-Gog. And it's going to say, for 7 months, the house of Israel will be burying them in order to cleanse the land. You got to remember, in Israel, you can't leave dead bodies around. It profanes the land. It's against their religion. Okay. But it says that they will set apart men to travel through the land regularly and bury those travelers remaining on the face of the land, so to cleanse it. At the end of 7 months, they will make their search. At the end of 7 months, they will make their search. Okay? And when these travel through the land and anyone sees a human bone, then he will set up a sign by it till the buriers have buried it in the Valley of Hamon-Gog. Okay, so they're going to wait 7 months for the cleanup. Then they're going to go through, they can walk through the land and they can put signs by the deceased. And then another group comes through to pick them up and escort them to the valley. Okay, so they do a search and they mark them, and then people probably in hazmat suits move the organic material. Okay, because again, that's how you do a cleanup for something that has fallout with it. Okay, so that's why I'm thinking this is not a God-only miracle. I'm thinking the Israelis use low-grade neutron bombs because that would fit with the 7-month wait to clean up, whereas just the sheer miracle part of it wouldn't cause 7-month wait to clean it up. They could clean it up immediately. Okay, and so basically they will have taken out their enemies, and then it says also here that after they've taken them all out, that they will burn their weapons for fuel. And it says they'll pick up the spears and the bucklers and the armor and all that, and they'll burn it for fuel for 7 years. And nobody will have to go out to the woods to pick up wood for 7 years. Okay, so nobody uses wood to burn anymore. This is the way that the prophet saw it in the vision. But what they will be doing is, anytime you have a land invasion like this, all military equipment runs on diesel fuel. Okay. And in order to move tanks, APCs, Jeeps, and all that stuff, heavy equipment, it takes a lot of diesel fuel. These things get horrible gas mileage. I mean, tanks get 3 to 4 miles to the gallon of diesel. I mean, horrible. So whenever you're doing a land invasion, you have to make sure that you send a lot of diesel trucks with your convoys to keep all the equipment topped off and fueled for combat. Okay, you can drive south, but if your tank gets below a certain amount, you have to refuel it because it can't enter combat and run out of fuel because it'll be a sitting duck then if it can't move. So they're not only going to be having all these equipments with gas tanks with fuel in them, they're going to to be moving trucks with diesel in them with these thousands of vehicles. And remember, this is the biggest land invasion there's been in forever. So there's going to be a lot of diesel fuel, okay? So whenever you blow up vehicles, you lose all the fuel. But if you blow up vehicles using a neutron bomb, the neutrons go through the steel and kill the people, but the fuel is still usable. And diesel fuel is usable for a very long time if it's kept in a container, okay? Gasoline doesn't last 7 years, it goes bad. Diesel, though, is much longer lasting than, and it's just hard to describe, but trust me, I know people with diesel and talk about this stuff. You can run some old nasty diesel in a truck or a tractor. And you got to remember, the north of Israel is where all the vineyards and planting is. So that's where all the tractors and the big pickup trucks and also the Israeli military vehicles can all use this diesel that's been left behind and on the side of the road. They just have to siphon it off. And they could do that for 7 years. Now, it's interesting that this giant war happens, and basically this giant land invasion happens, and it's all over in one day. And then it says that they'll use the fuel for 7 years, okay? So my brain immediately goes to, well, the tribulation is 7 years, okay? And also, in order for the tribulation to happen, there has to be a 7-year peace agreement signed. So my brain says, could this be that the war of Gog and Magog kicks off the peace agreement for the 7-year tribulation period? Because again, if they use weapons on their own land and they nuke Damascus, the world will demand Israel give up all their atomic weapons. That's just the way it's going to be. But they are going to be mad at Israel to begin with, but when they see this giant thing happen, they're going to say, okay, Israel, you have to give up your atomic weapons. And Israel will only do that if they have a peace agreement guaranteeing them for an amount of time no one will attack them, because they have to, rebuild their military, do all this stuff. So they'll give up their nukes because they're going to be kind of weak to begin with after all this, thinking, okay, we got 7 years to rebuild the IDF and rebuild all our forces and, have another generation of soldiers come up and all this. So they're going to be against the ropes. So again, this is how I see it playing out in my mind. I could be completely wrong. I could be completely off. This could completely happen in a different way. But with all the different clues, this makes the most sense. I'm fitting pieces together like a jigsaw puzzle. And from what I know about military history and the way geopolitics works, this in my brain is what I foresee when I'm given all the clues. Plus, I love to read spy novels and all that stuff, so I go along these path lines in the spy novels that you have to figure out what's going on and who did it. Okay, so let's see. I don't want to leave anything out because this is the last video. So we got the 7 months to wait to bury them. We got the 7 years of burning the weapons. We have probably Damascus getting nuked. We have probably this leads to the peace treaty for the 7 years would be my guess. Oh, I remember what I'm forgetting. So in the first video, I talked about there being a gas pipeline, the Mediterranean, the Mid-East pipeline. It's the Mid-Mediterranean East pipeline. Okay, this is planned to be finished sometime between 2025 and 2027. Okay, so the way I see that going down is Russia's going to wrap up the war with Ukraine at some point. They're going to need a couple of years to regroup their military and build their equipment back out. They've lost 16,000 vehicles in Ukraine. So they're going to revamp old tanks, build new tanks. They need a new generation of soldiers to age in, turn 18 and 19 and come into their armed forces. So they're going to need a couple of years, right? And then on top of that, they have to rebuild they have to fix the Nord Stream and get gas flowing back into Germany. In the meantime, Israel will get this Mideast pipeline built, and they'll start putting gas down through Italy. So their gas line will go to Italy, they'll go to Germany, and all the gas will meet in the middle. And the problem will be is the Russians will see all of a sudden our gas demand has dropped by 50% because of the Israelis. Okay, so that's what's going to motivate them to basically say, okay, we got to take out the Israelis, because even if we just take out their pipeline, they're just going to fix it or find another way to go around it. We need to basically go in and get all of these Arab nations. We'll be in charge. We'll take them in. We'll let them wipe Israel off the map, and then we'll have the gas, and we'll say we get the gas rights or something like that. So anyway, that most likely is how it's going to play out. Again, it can happen in a completely different way that I'm not foreseeing. But again, I think that with the 50-year anniversary of the Camp David Accords coming up in 2028, and those led to the peace treaty with Egypt 50 years past, that kind of fits with the 50-year increments of things that are happening every 50 years. A new event happens. So that's the last big thing after the Yom Kippur War was the Camp David Accords. Okay. By the way, the Yom Kippur War started October 6th, 73. October 7th, 2023, 50 years later, to the day actually, I know it's one day more, 6 to 7, but that's the way it works with leap years. 50 years later to the day, October 7th attack by Hamas happened. Okay. That's the day they chose. They didn't match it up with 50 years after the Yom Kippur War. They weren't that smart. So again, we have this 50-year cycle going. So I'm thinking something big is going to come down. It's going to have something to do with a peace treaty, most likely, because that's what happened in 78 and early 79. So again, a few years out, I could be completely wrong. Who knows? Hope you enjoyed this video. Sorry for this being a three-parter, but there's so much detail in this conflict that's coming up, and it's so specific that I think that most likely the rapture will occur before or immediately after this thing happens. And the reason I believe that is because this is such a glaring example of proof of God's word that nobody in the churches will be able to deny what happened isn't the Ezekiel 38-39 prophecy. Okay? No one out there who goes to church is going to say, well, that can't be it. No, there's way too many specifics laid down for us to be in denial about this. So again, I think the rapture may happen after it, but it may happen before it. I don't know. So we'll just have to wait and see. Please like and subscribe and share this with other people that might enjoy it. I want to say God bless all of you. Let you be salt and light in everyone's life. And God bless Jesus. Amen.